All right, we're back with example number 8, which is going to talk about auto settings inside of Grid. This can be really useful for both Grid and Flexbox. And what the auto command does, you can see it here in the Grid template columns example piece of code, is to set the width or the height of a grid item automatically based on the content. So if we take a look over in our index.html and we take a look at, again, this is the number 8 auto layout index. This card actually doesn't have a width of 300 pixels set. It's set to be auto. So let's go ahead and add some more content to that card, and we'll see what happens when we actually do that. So we'll just pretend that we're going to add some more content in here where the paragraph is. And I'll just copy and paste that content a few times, and we'll see what happens to it when we go back over and refresh this. You can see that the rest of the grid layout has now stretched to accommodate this. Again, this has an automatic width set on it, and this has a fractional width. So what it's going to do is it's going to try to keep this grid into its fractions, and it will affect the grid items that are in line with this. So if we take a look at the grid inspector over in Firefox, you can see that now, this grid item has gotten wider, these have gotten narrower, and that's going to ripple on down through the columns and the rows that we have set up for grid if we use this auto width setting. We can control this by setting a fixed width on an item if we would like to. So we could change this to say 300 pixels or something like that, and then the one fraction. Go back over and look in the developer edition, and we can see now it has width of 300 pixels set. Again, this will affect the grid areas, the rows and the columns kind of throughout. And what we can do is to go ahead and set, an explicit width on some of the columns. So we'll do this, copy this code over. This will override the code that we had above, of course, so we have an explicit width set on those individual cards. And then we also can go ahead and grab, for example, a height, and this will ripple across the height of the other rows. So if we set card 4 to have a height of 300 pixels, go back over here and we'll refresh over in Firefox, then we see that now the 300 pixel height is set for card 4, 5, whatever else we would have also inside of this grid layout. So when we overlay the grid, we can see, this height of 300 pixels is already set up in here. Pretty straightforward. It's just a thing to keep in mind that whenever you're setting an explicit width or an explicit height, it's going to change the rest of the grid, at least the row or the column that's in. And so you're going to want to think about that and probably not set explicit widths unless you know exactly what that content is going to be, because if you do so an explicit width or a height and you have more content, it's going to overflow that, which is a little bit irritating. Okay, we'll pause there.